mean, got a niche, but I'm not in it. Yeah, I mean, I guess one application I see where it's used is in like conference rooms where you have one that's that big or a little bit bigger and you can hear around you and kind of do stuff and then it shows on the bigger screen, but or if it was an all-in-one meeting.
Don't have anyone joining online.
Oh, Jeff, well, you don't want to sit by me?
Oh, no, I'd love to sit by you. We'll take turns.
We're live.
Your brother was friendlier than you were last night.
Is that right? Is he drinking?
No.
Were you drinking?
No, we were in a meeting. Stearns Electric.
Oh. Gonna get a new executive, I see.
No.
Huh?
Not much choice in the matter.
Yeah, he's retiring.
He's retired, so
I'm just tired.
Tired.
They said
not you.
we're live.
We're good to go.
Live.
Well, whenever when Jeff gets back or whatever. I think your Friday morning fishing is
Nice meeting you.
a little dark at 5:30.
Very dark. There'll be a couple in this meeting.
Yeah, he does, but he needs to modify his.
Your brother was.
I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Your brother said that he was the better looking one of the family.
Oh, he is? Yep, more money, better looking.
Yeah.
He's got it all covered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sean,
Everybody.
where was he at? That's really why I moved over.
He was at that Stearns Electric meeting last night.
Oh, is that an annual meeting?
No, member engagement board or whatever.
Oh, are you on that?
Oh, Jeff.
Yes.
Jeff, you're hitting your bill and then. And Sean. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, and, also, taking advantage of the seniors. Well, I qualified. It does take a while, yeah. It even takes longer to admit it. Yeah, so, the qualifying's pretty obvious. Admitting it. Not really. Shut down the appraisal practice, the smell issue, but I'm through them now. Yep. I got that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Are you good to go outside? Yeah.
Get the starter pistol? I got mine on.
All right, I'm showing 7 o'clock. We'll get the meeting rolling. Deb, are we good in the back? All right, cool. We'll start tonight's meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We'll do a quick roll call of members. District 1, Jason Wienerman is gone tonight. District 2, Sean Blackburn. Jason Crone, District 3, that's me, and I'm obviously present. District 4, Ken Mossman.
Here.
District 5, Mike Prell. Here. At-large, Rich Blankish. Here. And at-large, Jeff Bertram.
Here.
All right, very good. With that, we will move to our first agenda item. Agenda item number 1 is to consider a rezoning request submitted by Carrie Mouse Revocable Trust of Kimball, according to section 4.1 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439, to rezone approximately 12.5 acres from the Ag 40 zoning district to an R5 zoning district. The property is part of the southwest quarter, northwest quarter, and part of the northwest quarter and southwest quarter lying south of County Road 150 Willow Creek Road and east of 103rd Avenue in Section 10 of Main Prairie Township. Property address is 10289 Willow Creek Road in Kimball. A quick roll call of members who visited the site. We'll start with you, Sean.
Yes.
I also was able to visit the site. Ken?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Rich?
Yep.
And Jeff?
Yes.
All right, very good. Do we have the applicants here? If you'd like, you can come up to the front. Just make sure the green buttons are on the microphone. And we'll get back to you with some introductions here in a second, but if you're ready, Heidi, we can go to the staff report.
Yep. So this request is rezoning 12.5 acres from agriculture 40 to residential 5. If approved, the plan is to split this parcel into 2 buildable lots. The property has access to County Road 50 or Willow Creek Road, and then also 103rd Avenue. It's a mixture of grassland and field. There's no setback impacts with this request. There are approximately 23 homes and 2 registered feedlots within a half mile of the property. It's surrounded by rural residential lots, some ag land, some wetland. The city of Kimball is about 300 feet to the north, and the Kimball Rod and Gun Club is about 950 feet to the east. Surrounding zoning is agriculture 40 to the north, east, and south, and residential 5 to the west. The area requested to be rezoned is not within any overlay districts or areas of concern. The property is within the concentrated development area on the future land use map. The land evaluation site assessment score was 63.9, which is below the non-ag conversion of 65. Main Prairie Township reviewed this and did recommend approval. And that's all that I have.
All right, thanks, Heidi. Yeah, applicant, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Gary Mouse, 10289 Willow Creek Road, Kimball, Minnesota.
All right, thanks, Gary. Is there anything you'd like to add to the staff report?
No.
Okay, all right.
She's
Very
got
good.
it, I think.
All right, very good, thanks. Any questions from Planning Commission members for the applicant or staff? All right. Quick question, rezoning, are you familiar with the process that would happen after rezoning as far as plating and things like that? If things were to be approved?
Yeah, we're getting there, but no, not completely.
Starting
no.
zoning, okay, very good. But you're working with staff, awesome.
Yep.
All right, well, with that, if no questions, we can move to the public hearing. Is anyone here from the public on this item? All right, not seeing a rush up front. Thanks, Jeff. Motion made by Jeff, second by Rich. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Public hearing closed. All right, any additional discussion before we move into findings of fact?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's pretty straight up, close to the city. It's a no-brainer, 2 homes, so.
I would agree with you.
Yep.
So, good. Okay. With that, we'll move into findings of fact. So number 1, is the proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance? Why or why not?
Mr. Chair, I believe it is consistent. This is a transitional area, and it's surrounded by similar developments.
Thank you. And it is allowed, I believe, under section 4.1 of the zoning ordinance number 439. So
Correct. Thank you.
I'd agree. Thank you, Sean. Does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county? List applicable sections. You were kind of going down that path, Sean.
Mr. Chairman, yes, it is. Under living goals, it does conform with, collaborate with cities and townships, maintain sustainable growth patterns. Number 2, manage the impacts of growth, develop the county's rural character. And under rural residential policies, number 3, it does comply with residential uses in the agriculture area must be embraced in comprehensive plan future land use factors, minimize conflicts.
Good. Thank you, Jeff. Number 3, is the proposal compatible with existing neighborhood? Why or why not?
I think it is, Mr. Chairman. 23 homes, obviously 300 feet from the city. It's compatible.
Yeah, I would agree. How has the applicant demonstrated that the standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied?
I think character. The Mouses have been around for a while, so I don't think there's going to be a problem.
Very good. You know, and I think there's some other processes that'll follow this that'll ensure that the development is done well. All right, so number 5, any other issues pertinent to this matter related to the township, federal, state permits, environmental concerns, or anything else?
Mr. Chair, the township gave their approval of it.
Yeah, township approval, that's always
Whereas under
appreciated.
65, Mr. Chairman.
And as mentioned earlier, it is part of the concentrated development area for the county long-term plan, so a few different things. All right, anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we recommend approval by the county board on September 27th for the rezoning request.
All right, thanks.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Jeff, seconded by Rich. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, very good. So motion to recommend approval will go to the county board for their meeting. And did you just state the date? And I wasn't listening very well.
September 27th.
Thank you. September 27th. So if you have any other questions, you can reach out to staff. Thank you. All right, agenda item number 2, and that's to consider a conditional use permit request submitted by Jody Elquin of Hugo, Minnesota, according to section 4.8 and 10.1.8 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439. The request is to elevate a screen porch using an alternative elevation method on lot 13 of Kruger subdivision in section 34, lying south of Brookhaven Road and north of Lake Coronis, Paynesville Township. The property address is 27583 Brookhaven Road, Paynesville. Are the applicants here on this one? You can come on up front again. And again, we'll go through the staff report and then we can get back to you with intros. So, all right, real quick, members who visited the site. Sean?
Yes.
All right, I need my cheat sheet again. I also was able to visit the site. Then we'll move to Ken.
I didn't go this time because I was there in June for when they got the variance. They got a variance in June and I was there.
I'll count that. Thanks, Ken. Mike?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
And Jeff?
Yes.
All right, very good. Heidi?
All
Good to
right.
go.
So this request is to elevate a screen porch using an alternative elevation method other than elevating on fill. They did develop a engineered plan to show how that's going to be elevated and meet the regulatory flood protection elevation. This is within shoreline and floodplain for Lake Coronis, which is a general development lake. They did get a variance for the setback to the side property line for this porch. Surrounding areas are residential 1, residential 5, and lakeshore lots. Concentrated development on the future land use map. Suggested conditions, number 1, the as-built condition of the structure shall be certified by a registered engineer as being in compliance with the state building code. Construction site best management practices shall be required during construction, and an elevation certification is required showing the bottom floor of the screen porch meets the regulatory flood protection elevation of 1128.66. And that's all that I have.
All right, thank you, Heidi. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself for the record?
Jody Alwyn, address is, you just P.O. Box 516, Hugo, Minnesota.
All right, thanks, Jody. Is there anything you'd like to add to
she
Heidi's
covered
report?
it.
All right, very good. Any questions by Planning Commission members for the applicant or staff?
Do we need to consider impervious coverage
It
at
was
all?
done in June.
It was done in June?
Yep.
As part of the variance request
Part of the variance.
that was reviewed.
Okay.
All right, very good. Anything else? I know we've seen a few of these along that stretch of Lakeshore and Lake Coronis. It's kind of a common thing and a good idea, long run, knowing I spent a lot of time on that lake. Water tends to go up and down, so it's a good thing. All right, anything before we go to the public hearing?
So does the fish population because of you go up and down? Every time you're there, the population goes
No,
down.
let them go. Let them go. Just sore mouth. All right, we will move to the public hearing. Is anyone here from the public on this item? Again, not seeing a rush up here. We'll motion to be in order.
Move we close the public hearing.
Thank you, Sean. Second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Rich. All right, motion by Sean, second by Rich. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Public hearing closed. Any additional discussion on this one?
Mr. Chairman, it says the DNR is reviewing the engineered plans. Did I miss that? Have they or?
We have not received a response from the DNR yet. It was sent to them probably 3 or 4 weeks ago.
And do we need to receive it for them to move forward? The only reason I ask is they're always late with this and, to help them keep this thing moving, let's not force them to rely or wait for the DNR's inaction.
Mr. Chair, Jeff, Angie Berg, Environmental Services, typically what we'll do is we'll give them one last shot and we'll give them a deadline by which they need to reply, and if they don't, then we'll issue the permit.
Perfect.
And we'll probably do it sometime early next week, and we'll work with Ms. Owen to see if she's going to do construction yet this fall.
Perfect.
Yeah, okay.
They hope to.
Very good. All right, good. Thanks, Jeff. Anything else? All right, well, we can move into the findings of the facts then, and if there's any additional discussion, we can have it then. So number one, is the proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance? Why or why not?
Mr. Chairman, it is under zoning ordinance number 439, sections 4.8 and 10.18.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Number two, does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county? Please list applicable sections.
Mr. Chair, it does conform to the future land use map in the agricultural and rural area. Also restore, with the comprehensive plan goals and objectives to nature goals to preserve, restore, and protect important natural systems and natural resources.
Thank you, Sean.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also add under Lakeshore Living Policies, number 8, evaluate lakeshore housing projects using the following as guidelines in addition to the comprehensive plan. And 7, create riparian standard that balances the interests both year-round and seasonal residents.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, it fits a few of them. So thank you, gentlemen. Is the proposal compatible with the existing neighborhood? Why or why not? As you mentioned earlier, along this stretch of lakeshore, this is actually becoming a more common practice. So it is compatible in my view. Number 4, has the applicant demonstrated that standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied? I'm sorry, how has the applicant demonstrated that?
I think by going through the variance process and obviously being here, they're showing that they're going to work within the process.
Agreed. Thank you. And number 5, other issues pertinent to this matter.
Just, Mr. Chairman, the note that staff has that if the CUP is granted, that the applicant has to obtain a construction site permit, which I'm sure you know that. So just to make it clear.
Yep. Yeah, very good. All right. If there's no other discussion, a motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the county board on September 27th for the conditional use permit.
All right.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Jeff, second by Sean. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, so recommendation for approval, September 27th. If my memory's still working yet, we'll go to the county board. So, all right, thank you. All right, agenda item number 3. And that's to consider a conditional use permit request for a major shoreland alteration submitted by Christy Gilliland Sartell according to sections 10.2.14D and 10.2.14I of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439. The request includes topographic alteration greater than 100 cubic yards within twice the building setback and retaining walls greater than 4 feet in cumulative height on Lot 1, Block 1 of Williams Acres, 3rd edition, and Lot 3, Block 1 of Williams Acres, 2nd edition, in Section 33 of Brockway Township. Property address is 538 County Road 1 in Sartell, Minnesota. And you've already come up. We'll have you come back and state name and everything, address for the record in a second. But first, we'll go to a quick roll call of members who visited the site. So, Sean, we'll start with you again.
Yes.
And I was a yes. Ken?
Yes.
We're just going to go Rich. I lost my
Yes.
sheet with the order again.
Mike.
Thank you. Mike?
Yes.
And Jeff?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thanks for rolling with that one. Struggling a little bit today. So with that, Heidi, Nick, you have this one. So Nick, if you can take us through the report.
Sure thing, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission. This is about a 9-acre lot that's relatively flat until you get towards the river. Then there's a steep slope within the building setback. Loamy sand soils out here. There's good native vegetation cover within the building setback area. No septic system on the property currently. There is an application that has been submitted. In 2018, there was a construction site permit and a septic system permit for the accessory structure that is on the property currently. Essentially, this request, as mentioned in the intro there, it is more than 100 cubic yards of material that's proposed to be moved outside of 20 feet of the proposed structure. Some of that grading activity is shown in the plan. Part of that area is for a stormwater treatment area. There is a stormwater requirement in the plat. That is for the subdivision, that is a requirement. This is a little bit larger than what was the minimum requirement. So this is being incorporated as part of the plan, but even outside of this stormwater treatment area, there is more than 100 cubic yards of material movement. The retaining walls proposed, there's 3 walls. All of them are beyond the building setback of the river. So even though it's more than 4 feet in cumulative height, it could be permitted under a minor permit, but this is part of the request as well. Essentially with that, we've got 2 conditions that are proposed, just to follow all sediment and erosion control practices as proposed in the plans, and then for native vegetation establishment to be required around the stormwater treatment area as proposed, to stabilize those slopes around the treatment area, as well as where the outfall would be on the downslope side of that before it goes onto the steep slope towards the river. We did receive 2 emails. Both were in support of this application. The neighbors to the north and the south both had voiced support for the proposal. With that, I think that's all I have.
All right, thanks, Nick. Chris, if you don't mind stating your name and address for the record.
Yes, Christy Gilliland, 1986 40th Street North, Sartell.
All right, very good. Anything you would add to the staff report?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Any questions by commission members for the applicant or staff?
2 points, Mr. Chairman. One, I'm glad to see that the site visit was done at the same time with Greg and our staff at the same time. Do you know who the contractor is going to be, Ms. Gillian, by chance?
Lisi Brothers out of Minnetonka.
Okay. And I assume they're a licensed contractor, or?
Yes.
Yep, they are.
They will need to become a licensed shoreland contractor, but that can be done. It's an application that they'd fill out and submit to us, but they can become licensed and they can do the project. There's no issue with that.
I guess that was my point, just so you're aware that they need to be a licensed shoreline. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Basically, this is a catch basin before anything gets to the bluff. And as far as the vegetation plan, I know that's something that was a recommendation, just making sure there's a maintenance plan on that. So that would be probably the only other condition that would tie here. So, and any issues on that?
No.
Okay. All right. Any other questions before we move on to the public hearing? All right. So if anyone is here from the public on this item, please come on up. And again, not seeing a rush, a motion to
close
be
the
over.
public hearing.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Rich. Motion by Jeff, second by Rich. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Public hearing closed. All right. Any further discussions before we move to findings of fact? All right, then we'll roll. Number one, is the proposal consistent with the existing county ordinance / performance standards? Specify the applicable section of the ordinance and discuss why or why not.
Mr. Chair, it is within the zoning ordinance 439, sections 10.2.14D and 10.2.14I.
All right, very good. Thank you, Rich. Number two, are there any other standards, rules, or requirements that the proposal must meet?
The conditions, two conditions, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, two conditions to deal with the stormwater catch basin. Number three, is the proposed use compatible with the present and future land uses in the area, or can it be separated by distance or screening from the adjacent land uses? Why or why not? How will any scenic views as viewed from the water body or public place be impacted by the proposed use? And I think it is present. There's other residential homes in the area that are dealing with landscaping issues. We've got a bluff with a wooded bluff coming from the river, so I think it's compatible there. Anyone feel differently?
No.
All right, number four then. How are the potential environmental impacts, groundwater, surface water, air quality, wellhead protection areas, fish and wildlife habitat of the proposal being addressed? Again, I would say that this is directly addressing those issues and making sure the water is being handled properly before running into the river. So, anyone see it differently?
Nope,
All right, cool. Number five then, how will the potential impacts of the proposal affect the property values of the area in which it is proposed?
Information's not provided.
And it was not discussed. Thank you, Rich. Number six, how does the proposal affect the general health, safety, and welfare of the residents?
No impact.
No impact. Number seven, does the proposal conform to the goals and objectives of the county's comprehensive plan? Specify which goals and objectives.
Mr. Chair, it does conform to the comprehensive plan's goals and objectives. Nature goals, number one, to preserve, restore, and protect important natural systems and natural resources. And number three, to recognize the significance of water resources.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. 8, has the applicant provided financial assurance to guarantee reclamation or cleanup? And that was not applicable in this case. And then 9, other issues pertinent to this matter.
Probably just, Mr. Chairman, to be safe, again, the contractor's got to be licensed as a shoreline. Just note that there.
And just still waiting on comment from the DNR, which may or may not impact the issuing of the permit. So, anything else? Otherwise,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
Sam, just to give Sam credit for being here, we should just, if you could state your name and address for the record, please, Sam.
Thanks. I think everybody knows me, but Sam DeLeo, Creamless DeLeo Land Surveying, 13 11th Avenue North, St. Cloud. Thank you.
Very good.
Now, Mr. Chairman,
thank you, Sam.
Now we can bill for this. So.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Angie. All right. Anyone want to make a motion on this one?
I'll make a motion, we approve
All right. Motion by Rich with the 2 conditions.
with the 2 conditions.
All right. Thank you, Rich.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
All right. Second by Sean. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Motion for recommending approval to the county board will go September 27th. That's next week, if my math is right yet. And so you should be good to go. Any other questions, just reach out to staff. So,
Okay.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
2 weeks. September's flying by. Thank you.
This is an early one.
What day is it? Thursday?
This is the earliest
15.
we could have it.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Now to agenda item number 4. And that's to consider an interim use permit request submitted by Clark and I hope I pronounced this right. Aaron. Thank you, Aaron. Sorry. McQueen of Cold Spring. according to sections 4.18, 6.62, and 9.9.6A of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439. The request is to operate a vacation home rental located on Lot 1, Block 2, Winters Lake Shore lots in Section 28, lying west of Oster Point Road and east of Crays Lake in Wakefield Township. The property address is 16796 Oster Point Road in Cold Spring. So you guys are up front. We'll come back to you for introductions. Quick roll call of members who visited the site. Sean?
Yes.
I was also a yes. Ken?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
And Jeff?
Yes.
All right, very good. And then we'll have you guys quick introduce yourselves, and then we'll have that part done. So Aaron, go ahead.
Certainly. I'm Erin McQueen, and from 16796 Oster Point Road.
Mark McQueen, 16796 Oster Point Road.
All right, thank you. And then with that, we will move to the staff report. Heidi?
All right, this vacation home rental is being requested for 3 years until December 31st of 2025. The parcel is just over an acre in size and zoned residential 1. This is on Crays Lake, which is a recreational development lake. The adjacent properties are all residential lakeshore lots and zoned residential 1. There are over 90 residential dwellings within a half mile of the property, and the 2 closest homes are located approximately 85 feet from this home. Water tests for nitrates and bacteria show that the well meets the state requirements. Occupancy will be limited to 7 people. 3 off-street parking spaces are required. The septic system has been certified. A license from Environmental Services will be required. The property is within the concentrated development area in the county's comprehensive plan. This is in Wakefield Township, and they do still have their vacation home rental moratorium. So should this interim use permit get approved, the lodging license won't be able to be issued until the township lifts their moratorium. Suggested conditions. Number 1, the Planning Commission set a date or event upon which the IUP would expire. Maximum occupancy and advertising for the vacation home rental shall be 7. The applicant shall obtain a lodging license from Environmental Services prior to renting the home. A flow measurement device is required for the septic system, and flow measurement readings and monitoring of the septic shall be recorded monthly. The licensee shall keep a report detailing use of the home by recording at a minimum the name, address, phone number, and vehicle license number of all guests. A sign stating swim at your own risk is required at the water edge or on the dock, and all local zoning requirements must be complied with prior to licensure.
All right. Thank you, Heidi. Is there anything you would like to add to the staff's report?
I would.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm going to start with just a little personal info about our place on Oster Point Road. And good evening, everyone, by the way. My husband and I bought this home in January of 2015. And since that time, we've committed hundreds of thousands of dollars in improving this property for our use, which, and especially now, since we have moved back, we have used as our primary residence for several years. Every one of our kids and other family members have their fingerprint on the making of our home here. We have a lively summertime lake neighborhood of social friendly people. In fact, it is because of the Oster Point neighborhood that my family has met dozens of new people over the years. That said, I share similar concerns about opening my home to guests, as they're similar to those concerns I've heard from other neighbors. My husband and I have talked with neighbors about the potential of having a vacation home rental. And while we all have concerns about what could go wrong, I do my best to not make decisions or assumptions based on speculative fear, and instead have done what I believe good foundational work to put some stops in place to prevent those concerns from materializing for myself and my neighborhood. So how does that look on a priority list? And I think it's best to highlight some of the neighbors' concerns that I've heard about and have read about. Number 1, safety of all involved. Airbnb itself requires verification for all guests that includes full name, email addresses, confirmed phone numbers, and credit card information. In the United States, Airbnb screens guests and hosts for certain background check offenses that might indicate an increased safety risk to the community and the neighborhood. I have an additional vetting process I plan to use that goes a level higher, which is a required introductory message sent to me from any potential guests wanting to book. The purpose of that message is for them to tell me the purpose of their vacation stay, the number of guests, and who their guests actually are. Is this a family event? Are there kids involved? Is this a couple's getaway, et cetera? They also must read the house manual that I have created and agree to those items listed. So in this way, there will be one-on-one communication established before anyone will be able to book our vacation home rental. This is actually bolded. This particular item in terms of safety is bolded as the very headline of my house manual, which is drive slowly down our road, 20 miles an hour, maximum always. You can find that in my house manual. And I do review my guests based on this as well. So in other words, if there's a valid complaint I get, it will be discussed with the guests and noted in their review. Also, in that vein, there are no pets allowed at any time on the property while renting out our home. That was very important to us. Cameras as well are all around the house with a 360 view of the home. Number 2, code of conduct, house rules. We have a limit of 7 guests per booking, and this will be probably a minimum of 3-night stay. We have a strict no party rule, and I understand that it can get tricky to define what that means. So in essence, what it means is that music levels must be respectable during the day, and quiet times, meaning inside and outside of the home, will be enforced. I have those quiet times available on my house manual for anyone who's interested. Our property is spacious, but that does not mean we allow it to be full of people. If our guests wish to have, let's say, a barbecue and want to invite people they may know in the area, that is a request that must be made in advance, and the total limit of people on the property may not exceed at any time 10 adults during the day. Unlisted guests may never stay the night, and there may never be more than the listed number of guests staying in our home. Parking rules may not be altered in any way to accommodate a few extra daytime guests. This is also clearly stated in my house manual. Number 3, parking. Parking and traffic on Oyster Point Road is a very, very valid concern. This is specifically addressed not only in my house manual, but will also be included in a rote-style details message that all upcoming guests will receive a few days before they arrive. It addresses how many vehicles can be on the property, that there is absolutely no parking along the street, including my property. And I also address what to do if a guest has passed our house, trying to find its location. For example, do not use a neighbor's driveway ever. And in fact, slowly and cautiously use the cul-de-sac if you have passed the house. This is the exact wording that I do use in my house manual. Number 4, a property manager. I have already a well-trained and paid property manager slated who lives 2 houses from us. Our home is visible from her home. I have taught her the rules of conduct expected from the guests. She owns her own copy of the house manual, and she is known, and I would assume trusted, by the neighbors on Oyster Point. It will be understood by all guests who she is, where she is, and that she will be stopping by to make sure everything is in order for the guests' stay. Number 5, county requirements. As Heidi said, our home has passed all inspections required by the county in order to operate a vacation home rental. The approval of the IUP is indeed the last remaining step. Excuse me. In closing, my husband and I have had conversations with our connecting neighbors, property-wise, to talk about the intentions of the property. With the property, excuse me, the house manual rules, as well as open communication about how to handle an unforeseen event. Each have stated that they either have no issue or are neutral regarding this matter, and that's concerning our connected neighbors. Additionally, I just want to mention that my husband and I have rented Airbnbs all over the country. We are reviewed and rated based on our adherence to the house rules and the expectations set forth. Folks who enjoy a more personal home-like experience want to continue traveling and exploring. So this rating is very important. From our experience, vacation home rentals are not really attracting Motel 6 or less guests. No one really gets a rating when they rent a hotel or a motel. And so I think this kind of process naturally mitigates some of these concerns. Most people have a track record of staying at Airbnbs that hosts everywhere have access to. And if a guest violates our rules, they will receive a negative review, and that will be seen by all, and it cannot be changed. So in closing, I just want to say that I'm very grateful to have our home, the location, and the people we have formed connections with in this place. And I have every intention of protecting that to my absolute best of ability, while hopefully exercising my right to earn income on the property for a portion of time during the year. And finally, I would just like to put out there that I'm very willing to volunteer, sit down, help write policy on these issues that represent both sides of the vacation home rental discussion, so that we can feel protected, yet free citizens to make reasonable and responsible decisions about our properties and our neighborhoods. And that concludes what I have to say.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions by commission members for the staff or applicants?
Mr. Chairman, staff, I assume you shared the moratorium, Wakefield moratorium with the employees, I would assume,
Yes, we did.
for the application.
Yes.
Which goes into one of my questions. So basically, I know the county board is going to be reviewing, having a public hearing next week on vacation home rentals. Sorry, 3 weeks from now.
And not a public hearing.
And not a public hearing. It's a discussion that's open to the public, but not from a comment standpoint. Yes, thank you for correcting me. There's a meeting on it. So if there were going to be ordinance changes made, so if something like the Planning Commission approved an interim use permit, and obviously the permit couldn't be granted because there's a moratorium in place, but if there was changes to that ordinance, what are the rules that would govern that IUP? Would it be at the time, basically based on the new ordinances or anything that would be changed, or would it be the ordinance that were in place when the time the IUP was given? Do you know that?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Mr. Chair, so if the Planning Commission makes the decision tonight and then the board makes a decision on September 27th on this particular application, and if the decision is to approve the conditional use permit with the condition that they have to wait till Wakefield's moratorium is up,
Yep.
then they wait till the moratorium is up, they get their license for that period of 3 years, and then the new ordinance would kick in after that license period is up.
Right.
If the application is denied by the Planning Commission and or the board, then any subsequent application of once the moratorium's up or once the county ordinance changes would have to meet the new requirement. Heidi and I did look at that, and maybe Aaron did as well. I mean, as written with the proposed changes, this property would meet the proposed standards as currently drafted for the commissioners to consider, which is it's really the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Yeah.
Is what we brought forward. So there are properties that we do get calls on, and we make sure we tell them that, well, based on this particular change that may happen, this would not meet the new requirements. This property would meet the requirements based on what's currently being considered.
Okay. However, okay. that answer that question?
Well, and I should say, however, I don't know what Wakefield Township is going to do. And I don't see Heidi here, so I don't want to speak for them, but I do know Wakefield's very interested in waiting until the county makes a decision.
Yeah.
Because they may not agree with everything.
And they may
So,
do something different.
Correct.
So question, Angie.
Oh, go ahead.
In the notice that you gave us in regards to the meeting with the county commissioners on the rental standards, and then in closing on the notice, it says you anticipate staff to be scheduling meetings either in November or December. Those
Yes.
meetings will be with,
Mr. Chair, Member Blankish, Commissioner Jeff Bertram asked me the same thing in an email, and my email to you all was very vague, so I apologize for that. Our expectation on October 4th is the board will direct us to schedule a public hearing at the commissioners level in either November or December. That would be my thought, but we haven't been inkled that decision
so
either.
potentially when those meeting or that meeting is scheduled, the township would be able to come in and voice
Absolutely.
about the standards? Okay.
Okay. Clark, you were going to ask a question?
No, I was just going to make a comment in regards to the Wakefield Township and your comment earlier. We've been in constant contact with Wakefield Township as well. And again, this would be hearsay, if you will, but their goal is to basically match whatever Stearns County does, but that's what they're waiting for.
Yeah.
So we've had detailed conversation with them regarding this same permit. We do understand they're under moratorium, but we wanted to be able to make sure we get in front of everything and get everything done, all our permitting done. But their goal, they said, from our conversation with them, is we're basically going to match what Wakefield Township does. They would not be stricter, but they could have less. But
Yeah. Okay. And I know I just see someone that wants to make a comment. We will come to the public hearing in a second, so you'll have a chance to ask questions. Go ahead, Rich.
Just another observation or question for staff. If we, I don't want to call it table it, but extend it to another month or whenever the county commissioners get their chance to go through the standards and we have the public hearing, and then the township is able to get their standards the same as the county. If we extend this, then the McQueens would not have to pay another fee, correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I would also like to add that under the proposed ordinance that the Planning Commission recommended to the commissioners, this would actually become a permitted use. So there's a chance it would be a less restrictive requirement, not additional, but right, no additional fees would be charged. This gets messy, and
Yes,
they
it does.
understand that. We understand. We just have to kind of work it out based on what we know at the time.
Yeah.
I just think it's a good practice for the county that we have, to the lack of a better term, our ducks in order for the clients.
Well, that actually segues to one of my questions for the applicants, and it's probably not a secret. I'm generally very pro vacation home rentals when they're done appropriately, like what you've described. What is the rush right now, considering everything going on? Because we've also been pushing the townships pretty hard for their input. So, in fairness to the recommendations we've given to them, I try to respect a moratorium in the case of Wakefield Township. So just help us out on the timing.
Because I think more than anything, it's taken quite some time.
Yeah.
So the rush is probably what seems to be happening right now, but the reality is I've been doing this and working on this for months.
Okay.
And based on what you just said, I don't want to elaborate too much, but again, we've stayed in places all across the country. We have friends who own Airbnbs in other states and counties, and what they had told us initially was just go down, get your permit, and you're done. So we started setting up stuff and then found out this is a considerably elaborate process. So we started it, we got to this point, and of course Aaron's conversation with staff is, well, you're to that point now. So we figured we might as well go through with at least getting in front of the board now, rather than just sit on it now, since we've paid all this money and had all the inspections, had you guys walk the all this other stuff. So it's not that it's a rush, it's just the timing, just kind of how it came about.
Yes.
Fair statement. And it has certainly turned into a hot button item, so. Okay, any additional questions for staff or applicants?
Mr. Chairman, and we did walk the property and everything only because you applied for it, and we have to consider it tonight. So that's why I asked staff, and Angie did share it with, I don't know if she shared it with everybody, but very specifically about the moratorium and what the understanding was, so they knew that before they came tonight. The other moving part, Mr. Chairman, is Munson Township's meeting, Wakefield's meeting, Main Prairie. So they're all three townships. And I like the last part of your comments the best, to help write. I still say that we're missing an opportunity on a county level that we don't allow, or not that we don't work with Munson, Wakefield, Main Prairie, and Sauk Center, but certainly those three, that is one common uniform ordinance. I really think if we force the townships to do this on their own, and Munson's got one set of ordinances and Wakefield's got another ordinance, as we all know, the township line is on a road, and so everybody on this side is in Wakefield, everybody on that side. I hope we can come up with a better, but Munson Township's meeting on this as we speak, so this is really all in process, and I think we have to act on a permit in 60 days unless we have the approval from the applicant, so that's, remember, that weighs in, Rich. We can't extend it, because if we don't act on it, it'll automatically be approved unless I'm missing something.
Mr. Chair, you're almost right. Commissioner Bertram, you're almost right. 60 days is what we get automatically. But if the Planning Commission, let's say tonight, would want to continue it, then we would notice them that we get an additional 60. So technically, without applicant's consent, we get 120 days.
Okay. And I just think, again, the cart's before the horse. We should kind of let this all, do the last part first, work with the townships and the county let's come up with a plan, and then let's try to do one uniform plan. I think we'll be the best served, but that's my 2 cents.
I concur, and timing in life is everything, right? So a question would be, would you consider extending or staying this application, knowing you have resources and financial interests already tied up into it, to buy a little more time for those discussions to happen? I think from a planning commission perspective, that would make things far easier as we're trying to work with all these different groups. The question is, I don't know if there's a timing perspective that impacts you.
And again, we've done, mostly my wife has done everything we can to work with the county here. So if extending the permit helps work with the county, then we're obviously for that.
Okay.
So
there's no additional application fee.
Yeah, that was
There's
no additional fee. We're good.
That's why I was bringing it up now. Yeah. So if we were going to do that, that's something I think that they could request right now, and that would basically just halt it, Angie, or help direct.
Mr. Chair, Heidi, when is our 120 days up? Would it be the end of December?
End of November.
End of November. So, Mr. Chair, we don't need any consent from the applicants tonight. We have until the end of November. So we could just, again, like I said, play it meeting by meeting, and if the commissioners make a decision for a public hearing before that date expires, then we have an answer. If not, then, I mean, likely we'll need a continuation from you, but Heidi will work with the applicants to make sure we get that on time.
And at minimum, we'll have a lot better direction at that point.
Yes. And Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, any changes that would be made, this would have to meet those changes.
Mr. Chair, no, they would not. We use the
timing helps.
We use the application, we use the ordinance in place at the time of application.
So I think, again, that's the tricky part, guys, is that, again, so if you really want to complicate this, let Munson and Wakefield and the county do their job and then come up with something. Now we're going to be forced to have to deal with something that might not be in line with what those changes are.
unless we made those changes part of the conditions. We could add
Well,
conditions
you
to
can
the
do that,
application.
and we can do that, but again, it just complicates it. And again, I think we're going to be able to work this out, but what I was firm about with staff was, did they know about this? And they sent a very detailed, the McQueens, again, no disrespect, but they fully knew this. They knew that their application, and you were actually kind of straightforward, more straightforward than you maybe needed to be, Angie, but you were. So they knew that. And again, we're just going to complicate this, in my opinion, because it's just going to be hanging there. And then you're going to have all these other potential applications or properties that might want to do this. And then they do make some changes, and then we're going to have, okay, these changes, but not that one. And then it's just going to open up a can of worms again, I think. But I think we should hear from the public, Mr. Chairman, see what they say.
That is fine. We do have a few people here from the public, I think, on this one. So we'll go through the public hearing, and we'll get to the next chunk, and then we'll let you guys make decisions on how we want to proceed. So with that, we have a few people here from the public. I know one certainly, so you can come on up and just state your name and address for the record. And then, yeah, sorry, I should have described this taller podium here.
Ken Johnson. I have two properties right to the bottom of their point there on the right-hand side. There's two lots.
The two along the road?
16809 Oyster Point Road.
Okay, thank you.
And we would be, I'm glad to see that she has addressed this as strongly as she has, because we've always had you guys know, and I really appreciate it. You should see what they've done to this property when they bought it. I mean, I've been there for 41 years, and we have the oldest property on the whole point. And they've really improved there, and I can see that she is single-mindedly going forward this, and it's great. My background, a little bit of background for me, I'm president of the Homeowners Association in Cloud Park. I ran my own contracting business for 42 years, bought, remodeled houses, apartments, owned 14 buildings with 3 apartments each, also owned the Jacqueline's 18-unit apartment building. I know what rentals are all about. We could always do background checks on the people that were going to rent it. We couldn't do background checks on their friends. That's the problem. And I hope she's addressed that. I talked to Heidi, and she said if they get too many noise complaints, they can get their license revoked. What constitutes too many? That would be a big point for me. Is 3 too many, or is 300 too many? It's been a quiet neighborhood. Well, you guys know, you're out there. So we're worried about loud parties, and limiting the number of renters to 7 is fine, like she says, and that's a good idea. And then she also addressed the fact that you're going to limit how many more people can be brought in, because the rentals that we had over by college, and we owned them all around St. Cloud, the problem that we had, and finally the city council addressed it. First complaint, that's strike 1. Strike 2, strike 3, whoever owns the property gets their license taken away for renting the property for a year. We didn't want that to happen. So we jumped on our renters, seriously jumped on our renters, because, let's party. Yeah, let's get my rental. No. So I think you addressed what we're talking about. And we've never even really met, I don't think, because we're not out there that much. But I appreciate good work. I'm a perfectionist myself. I had to be in my business. And so she looked like she's dotted every I and crossed every T. And having a manager there is a wonderful idea, because when the renters are there, you're not going to be there. And if you're not there, they can do whatever they want. I don't know if you heard the noise across the lake with that guy that Woken's property across, she's smiling. They played their music on 11 on a 10 scale until all hours of the night. And we had Steve Weschel go out there, and they swore at him up and down, like, I mean, every swear word in the world, and there was nothing he could do. There's no noise ordinance apparently in Wakefield Township. That's a bad deal.
It can be.
So I don't know. I would feel comfortable if somebody would address a noise ordinance. We should have something in place.
Yeah, appreciate that comment. And you know what I would recommend doing, and I mentioned this to someone that was at a previous meeting a few weeks ago, is to share those opinions with the local level of government, share it with Heidi, share it with the township, and then that stuff can kind of boil up to, I understand exactly what you're talking about. I could probably hear the same concert events from my place that you're referring to. So
Well, I just don't understand people playing loud music. I played in bands for years, and I understand about loud music.
And it gets complicated on the water because it carries.
Oh man, it carries.
That is really
I mean,
natural issue.
you can't. When that guy was playing his music across the lake, we couldn't be having a conversation right now. You wouldn't be able to hear each other.
Yeah.
And he's a mile across the lake.
Yeah.
So if you've addressed all the, you've really calmed my fears of what could potentially happen, because it can be a free for all.
Yeah. If I could make one comment, the biggest comment addressed to that is Airbnb and VRBO, people are rated. We rate every person, that we get rated every time we go somewhere. And again, let's say you go rent somewhere and you are a partier. Well, if you get rated bad, we're going to know that if we rent to you. So that's the biggest, one of the biggest ways is to protect us, is we're only looking, and really she's running this, but she's only looking for people who have 4- and 5-star ratings from other ratings. And so that's the biggest thing. And it's different with a hotel. I can go stay at and destroy it. Well, the next hotel doesn't know I did that.
Yeah.
Or here, it's not removable. So if we get a bad rating for all the ones we've stayed in, we might be screwed for the next one because nobody's going to want to rent to us.
Yeah.
So that's
The problem that we had college age renters.
That's not happening. That's not.
Yep.
And college kids, believe it or not, like to party,
Witnessed it. So very good. Thank you
Thanks a
for
lot. I really
coming up.
Thank you. It's a
what you're up to. Why don't you come up for a beer sometime?
All right. So we're to the point now where we can have additional. Yeah, sorry. Is there anyone else here from the public that wants to comment? Come on up. I'm sorry. All right. All right. And then quick name and address, of course. Yep.
Dawn Jensen, 19413 Florence Circle, Richmond, on the chain, a couple houses away from Wakefield. I'm right in Munson, et cetera. We worked really hard getting all the moratoriums in to put a freeze on this. I feel it's disrespectful to the townships and to the residents that worked very hard to do that, to just say, well, we'll just, do this, and when it's lifted, they can go by the old rules and this and that. We've been working for the last year on, like I said, the moratoriums, the ordinances, working with the county and everything. The moratoriums were there as a freeze. I don't know how long they've been running without a license, without the health department license or anything, and why, from the very beginning, they didn't ask for a permit. Then this wouldn't have been a problem to them. I don't know how long they've been running, but if they had done this in the beginning, but they chose not to. And on Airbnb, it does say before you post your listing that you're responsible for checking into what all the legalities are. So, in my opinion, you should be respecting Wakefield in this situation. That's pretty much all I have to say for now.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Heidi, were you going to mention them?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention the 2 letters that were emailed, and you have copies of them from Tim and Dana Doring and Al and Vicky Rugemer, that those are also entered into the record. And then I was just going to address Mr. Johnson's question about the number of complaints before revocation. And typically that's if we get 2 valid and documented complaints, that's when we'll seek revocation and bring it back for a public hearing.
All right, thank you.
Mr.
Heidi.
Chairman, don't we normally just highlight the letters for the record? I mean, just hit the highlights?
Yeah, I can do that. So from Tim and Dana Doring, they were opposed to the request. Concerns were the number of people using the property, the overnight guests and the daytime guests, having extra traffic on a dead-end street, potential for a spike in crime, late-night parties. Concerned if the McQueens do this, then other properties will follow suit. And then the letter from Al and Vicky Rugemer, their only concern was with parking, and they state it's very tight on holiday weekends, and there have been many vehicles on both sides of the road. Emergency vehicles need to be able to get through. And that was it.
All right, thank you, Heidi. And real quick, I think the last public comment, there was some assertions or discussion about this being currently operated as an Airbnb, and I didn't see any documentation on that. Is that accurate?
Mr. Chair, we did receive this one as a complaint that it was being advertised. My understanding is it has not been rented since we notified them.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, was it rented prior to you notifying them?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So we're at a point where we could go into findings of fact, or we could continue this, and ultimately that choice is the applicant's before we'd move into that. So it would be your call if you want us to proceed with findings of fact, or.
Mr. Chair, isn't that something that we would vote on?
Wouldn't they request it, and then we'd vote if we were going to go that route, or help me out, Angie?
Mr. Chair, the county has until the end of November to make a decision on this application without their consent for continuance.
Okay.
So.
So we could make a decision right now we could make
Correct.
a decision.
You could make a decision based on what you've all talked about, that you want to delay this until your, what would it be, Heidi, November meeting?
And Mr. Chairman, there's really 3 options. 1, recommend approval.
Recommend denial.
2, recommend denial. Or 3.
Or push it.
Whatever that really is. I don't know if it's a continuation or what it is. Well, there's really 3 options.
Well, I'm curious from the group what you like to do.
I don't quite follow Jeff's. His thinking is, if we approve this, then they'll get to follow these rules and not the other rules. So do you want them to drop this and pay again to come back under the new rules? Or what? Because I guess my thinking is everybody here seems to be, it wouldn't bother me to go on, move on, but everybody, the rest seem to be, they'd be more comfortable if we just waited till there was something done, and the townships are probably going to agree with what the county does anyhow. So
Mr. Chairman, Ken, and let me help answer that. They knew when they paid the application, and I wish you would have shared the email, and you can, very detailed, saying there was a moratorium. Planning Commission is probably not likely to recommend approval because they want to respect the township. So they knew that before they did that. I don't want to, we can, if you're concerned about the money, we could make a motion, we've never done that, to return the money, but they were told very clearly in that email that this is not, there's a moratorium. So, and it's not just my issue, Ken. Thank you for saying something finally. It's all of our issue. This is my opinion. If we're going to do this right, I think we need to have uniform standards. Again, I don't know what they're going to be. I have no clue to what Munson, I do know Munson's meeting, I know Wakefield's meeting. If they're waiting for the county, the county's not even having public hearings. So the county's doing their deal, Munson's doing their deal, and Wakefield's doing their deal, which again, I think it would be best served if the county would have said, listen, the townships have limited staff, have limited time. They should have, I think the county needs to pull them all together, pull people that are against them, people that are for them, and then what Aaron said at the end, let's write the rules together of, right now, Mr. Johnson just said something good about doing background checks on having somebody. I was at the Wakefield Township meeting when they said, one of the people that wanted to do an application said, having someone responsive in a 30-mile radius. That's new. I've heard 3-4 people, at least applicants that want to apply, say there should be a sign with a name and a phone number. And I've gotten pushback from Shelley on that from day one. Because again, as I said at the last meeting, don't call the cops, walk over and call the person or go over and talk to the neighbor, solve that. So those kinds of things are coming up. So that's what I want them to meet with, Ken. That's what I want them. So it's a standard that everybody applies to. But how you get there, make a motion, and then we can do what we want to do, I guess.
See, the deal about putting the sign, we discussed that at probably the first one I remember, probably 7 or 8 years ago, and we're told, well, we couldn't do that.
Who told us that?
Well, the county won't allow
Correct.
that.
A staff person told us that. We're told a lot of that by certain staff. Can't do that, shouldn't do that. That doesn't make it right. And we should have pushed it harder. If we would have pushed it harder then, some of these problems probably wouldn't have rose to the level that they are.
In fact, I think we did put in some of the first ones, there was supposed to be a sign inside of the house with the contact information and all of this stuff. You can't put it outside, you put it inside, and things. And I think in the end, these townships are just waiting. They don't want to do anything. They want the county to do all the work. And they're going to either complain, they're going to complain.
And Mr. Chairman, Ken, I met with Wakefield, I met with Munson, I met with Sauk Center. They really want the county's help because this is beyond them. They're not looking, obviously they're not looking for the county to solve it because they haven't solved it. So out of frustration, they did the moratorium. So they're not looking for the county for solving this on their own. But I do think it hasn't, again, I don't think it's been done right to bring in a team. Remember what we said 3 months ago, at least I did, create a working group, people that want them, that don't want them, cut the townships that are affected, the county, and then let's figure this out. We did it with many things. And for some reason, we're just not doing that with this. But
Mr. Chair and Jeff also. Jeff, in your opinion, you've been in contact with 3 different townships, board members, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do you think if the county commissioners come to a conclusion on the standards that they're going to have this meeting in October on, and then they have the public hearings, if we can nail it down for November, do you think those townships can actually get through what the county's working on or has worked on and approve? I mean, I'm looking at, can this all be resolved within 2 months, 3 months? The moratoriums go to the end of the year, correct?
I think Sauk Center already has done that. No, they're not allowing any of them.
No.
They're rabid against it.
Okay.
So they're not going to allow any of them, which again, long term, I don't think that's a solution. I think we can allow some under conditions, whatever, but I don't know that's what Sauk Center has chosen to do. But it all depends, I think, how the township's goals are met. And again, it would be helpful to have a Munson Township, one person, one from Wakefield, that they're a part of this in creating this.
Actually, the process is playing out the way it's supposed to. Realistically, it's starting at the local levels and it's brewing its way up. And Jeff, you and I agree on a lot of the parts of this, and then there's aspects that we probably see things differently on. At the end of the day, there's a couple of things I consider. One, we don't have documentation of there being a lot of issues when it comes to vacation home rentals. There's a lot of opinions around this topic, and they have some valid concerns, but we haven't seen a lot of these play out yet. And so a lot of it's based on hypothetical. And so then it's how much do you impact someone else's property rights? I mean, there can be, I've stated this on other applications before, you can have 100 people that see something and think someone should do this with their property, but if they don't own the property and it's not directly negatively impacting their property, then how much right do they have in deciding that? So my opinion on this one, and I would prefer, I respect the township's moratorium right now. I'd prefer to push this thing off, let a little bit more direction develop on it. The problem is the longer it does take. So we have two things, Jeff, to your point. We can rush and get some things established. Oh, great, fine and dandy. Even that, might be better than what we have now, and even that could probably be improved again. That's just kind of the way things go. But in the meantime, any applicant sits in limbo, and I hate to have them have to wait indefinitely for that process to play out too. So I get all sides of this, but my vote would be to hold it off until November.
Mr. Chair, I'll say one last thing. So it's likely, as Richard said, that the applicants would have to waive the 60 days because it's probably not all going to get wrapped up in that amount of time. That's just too many things to occur. And then secondly, just to be clear, that if the township makes a more restrictive standard than the county, they're required to follow that.
Right.
So when I stated that they're subject to the current rules, that's our rules, but the moratorium would still dictate the final decision. And as Heidi said, the condition would be that they have to follow all local regulations. So if Wakefield becomes more restrictive, even if the Planning Commission and the board approve it, they still have to follow that at the end of the day.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Heidi, or Angie. Jeez.
So they have to follow the new rules and not.
They would have to follow the rules that the township puts in place because those would supersede the county.
See, I think we've been looking at this all everything's been looked at by the property owners in the area, that they're worried about people coming in. If I was a person coming into one of these areas, I might be just as concerned about the people who are living there, that I bring my kids into that neighborhood or my teenagers. What kind of funny old guy is living in that house down there? Or how fast are these kids going to drive down the road? And I'm going to have my little kids out here walking around. This could be, everybody looks at it one way. We're looking at it as at the renter's point of view.
Yeah. But that's your choice to bring them in there. The people that live there in that neighborhood don't have a choice of who's coming in.
But they don't know who's coming in.
Exactly, but there's the other side.
And the people coming in don't know who lives there. So they're, it's like when you go to this hotel and you can't sleep all night because the people in the next room are having a really good time over there.
All right.
Okay.
So, tough topic, right?
I think we should probably put it off, like you're suggesting, till everything gets taken care of.
Okay, so that's two, but hearing it where everyone's at on this, Rich, what's your preference?
We put it off until the county gets everything that we need to take care of, taken care of.
Okay. Sean?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
All right, Jeff?
I'll go with the consensus.
Not your first choice, but you'll go along with the consensus. All right. Mike?
I'd grudgingly go along with it, but I'm all for the Airbnbs. I think a lot of people, like you say, are they're dealing with emotions rather than the facts. I've stayed at, not a lot, but a few, and I've never had any problems. And the studies we've seen, we've heard of very few problems. But
see, I would move on with it the way tonight. I'm just going by
I'm not anti-Airbnb. I'm just saying we need to, as a county, need to have our ordinances and everything in place and operate off of that, other than our personal opinions and likes or dislikes.
All right.
Right. So, Mr. Chair, just
go ahead, Sean.
Chair, to kind of amend Jeff's point. We actually only have two options. We either table it or vote on it.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying anything about voting up or down. It's a vote.
Yeah.
But we don't know how that's going to go.
Yep.
So
So do you need a motion?
I would need a motion,
Mr. Chair,
right?
I just want to clarify the public hearing is still open. That was not
Oh,
closed.
geez,
And if
Heidi.
you are going to vote on something, the findings of fact have not been done.
Yeah, right. Oh, that part's true. Thank you, but we do need to close the public
I'll move to
hearing, so
close the
thank
public
you.
hearing.
Thank you, Jeff.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, thank you, Heidi. Public hearing is closed. So, yeah, we are to that point now. So we can vote or push it off. And that's kind of what I was trying to go at. So I'm totally, basically, we're going to go on the path, vote or no vote, and we'll start over with you, Ken.
I'd vote.
Vote, Rich?
No.
No vote?
what exactly am I?
Do you want to vote tonight or no vote tonight?
No vote.
Jeff?
I thought the consensus was not to vote, so I'll go with the consensus.
Okay, so you're no vote, and Mike, you would vote or no vote?
I would vote, but, you know, it's,
Okay, I'm kind of on the no vote route, so that does take the majority. So we will not vote on this then tonight, and we will push this off to the November meeting, and then see how things play out and roll from there. So,
Mr. Terry, technically, just for the record, so it's clear, the item is tabled.
so
It's not a no vote situation. The item is tabled. That's really what you did, and then it will be renoticed.
I get my terminology right. So we are going to table this and renotice it to the November
Do you
meeting.
need a vote on the tabling?
Mr. Chair, we can take the,
Comments?
sure.
Well, let's make it clean.
That'd be
We'll make
great.
it clean.
I'll move to table it.
Thank you, Jeff.
Second.
Second by Rich. All those in favor to table it, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Thank you, Jeff. All right, so this will be November, tabled till November. Thank you. All right, yep. Okay, so that takes us to the fifth agenda item, and that is just reviewing the
Mr.
minutes.
Chairman, a couple of suggested changes on page 2 of the minutes. Second paragraph, it says that expressed some confusion regarding the number of site visits, stating he believed they can be consolidated. I think just add the clarification to better evaluate, identify issues with the applicants and for the applicants. That's the consolidated visits wasn't my concern. It's doing it with the applicants that they know what's going on.
Yeah.
They have different visits from different people, so the consolidated visits, I just want to explain that in the minutes.
Okay,
Page
thanks.
6, on the bottom of page 6, the last paragraph, Wetland is, not a capital, that's a name, the Wetland property. It's not spelled right, but of Painesville, not straight north of what, just put straight north of Painesville. It was another feedlot that was explained that it was under 700 animal units. That's why that's changed. And then it says on the back page on agenda number 6 that Commissioner Persky abstained from voting as he was not, was Persky there? I forgot.
Joe was at the last meeting,
Was he?
but he
Okay.
wouldn't be voting either way.
Right, he wouldn't be voting was the issue, I guess, so, for whatever it's worth.
Yep. All right. Duly noted. We good with those?
I'll move approval in minutes.
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
And then one issue, Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yeah.
With solar panels, if they don't produce energy within a year, they're removed. Wind turbines, if they don't produce energy within 12 months, they're removed. Cell towers, I found out, we construct cell towers and we just all assume they get used. They don't. So I suggest that we look into doing the same thing with cell towers, because I know when we were doing the Geronimo Wind project, they put up these wind, or the whatever they call those meters to check the air, and they had to take them down after they did what they did.
Yeah.
So I think it would be something that way, evidently the way this works is there's someone that constructs cell towers, like on behalf of carriers, and then that carrier may say, well, let's get 10 towers up, and then if something happens, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Well, then you've got a tower sitting there, in the case that I'm aware of, for 8 years, 10 years, and nothing's happened.
Interesting.
And there's no provider, there's no coverage, and so that would create an incentive. If you're going to build it, use it. And if you don't want to use it, then don't build them. So, but right now that does not exist, and Angie said if it's something I felt strongly about, that we should, as a planning commission, should pursue that, so.
Well, I think it's a good suggestion. You would think typically if someone's going to put the investment in building a tower, which isn't cheap, that they're gonna rent the thing or use it. But that being said, at some point, that may change ownership. There probably should be some end of life reclamation or something for those, because they do impact views and others' properties.
And a cell tower is more visible than these wind turbines, or whatever they're called. And they, like I said, they had to be removed. And I'm just saying, but the biggest thing I hope that this would do is that it would push people that are building the towers to use them.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to build them and you need them, then use it. Because normally what they're doing is they're building them in an area that's got low coverage. And so if there's no incentive to get a provider, then you're really not benefiting the public. And so I don't know how we'd go about.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question for staff. So if we were going to make a modification on would that be at the conditional use permit level, that we would have to make that a condition, or how would that work?
Mr. Chair, so for purposes of the zoning ordinance, I would have to look into, what do other counties do? It wouldn't be retroactive on any tower that's already been permitted. So in the meantime, we haven't had a cell phone tower in years, but we might. So you could handle it under the condition, but in the meantime, I will look at what do other counties do, try to find if there's even a way to, on the FCC's website or other resource, if there's any way to find out which towers are not being used. So my thought would be, let me do some research and then I'll bring it back to the Planning Commission.
Yeah.
And the tower that I'm referring to that I tripped on is north of Painesville Township. I think it's Painesville Township, could be Zion, and the company that constructed it is aggressively now looking for a provider, because I said, if we don't get what's the point of it? So and he wants it done, but again, these provide, can you imagine how many $1 billion Verizon and ITT? So again, they just say, go out there and get, God knows how many towers in the state of Minnesota, get them up, and then we'll build them, or we'll go on them and remember, we always require co-location. And this tower company has even contacted the county, because the fire departments for Lake Henry and Painesville have said there's reduced coverage in that area. Broadband, they talk about. So again, the need is there. The tower was agreed to allow to be built because of the need, and then nothing's being done. So, and I think that was one of the issues that Angie shared, that, they wouldn't know. A turbine, you can see if it's spinning or not. A solar panel, you can see if it's generating energy. A cell tower, you wouldn't know if there's something on it or not. I would have never known.
That's a good point. And I'll think about that a little bit too, because at some point, you have to look at it from a couple different angles. What you're stating makes logical sense. However, on the flip side, how much do you start to govern the usage of buildings? Like that grain elevator is too tall, and there hasn't been grain in there. It can be a slippery slope if we don't think about how we would do that properly, but I think the thought is legitimate.
So we're going to take all the silos down in the county?
No, that's my point. That's
anymore?
That's the slippery slope, so we do have to be careful about that, because you got to stay kind of consistent in your thought process and logic. But however, that being said, when it is a conditional use permit, there are some things that you can put in place to make sure that they're considered.
And I agree that it should be consistent, but then we should let the solar panels up and let the wind turbines up then. I mean, if we're going to leave silos up, then I wasn't saying silos, but if we're going to let them up, then let's let everything up then, or take everything down.
Yeah. No, I think it was a good suggestion, Jeff, and I just was thinking, before we make any like proposals based on what Angie would find out, we'll just want to think about it from a few different
Right.
angles.
The first action, I think, was she suggested that I bring it up. Is there an
Yeah.
interest in
No, that's
looking
good.
into it? I don't know how many we have. You can identify that probably first, and then I would say pretty quickly you'll be able to find out if they're I can't believe there's more than, one or two that aren't active. If they're, maybe that's the only one.
But as technology changes, the same thing's always going to apply. I mean, there used to be TV antennas and all kinds of stuff. So just thinking through it, that we can make it better. So good. All right.
Mr. Chair, I just have one more thing. So I'll send the Planning Commission email on Monday because Monday is the date where we are expecting a decision on the Meadowbrook Solar court case, which I'll tell Jeff after because he probably didn't hear and he's probably interested. So
All right.
Monday you'll get an email. We'll have a decision
He's interested.
on the Meadowbrook Solar application that was denied in Brockway Township. The second of the two, that decision's coming out Monday. So I'll email the Planning Commission once we have that from the court.
All right. Thanks, Angie. Cool. All right. Anything else? Motion to adjourn by Rich. Thank you, Rich. Anyone second? Thanks, Sean. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Meeting adjourned.